that show, you know, a weakness in liver functioning in the auric field just by taking a photograph of your fingertip. And getting the field around it. And so these are the sorts of things that a lot of science, like we say, if you can't see it, it's not there and there's no science on it. But there's a tremendous amount of science on entities, ghosts, being able to measure sounds and spheres and, you know, the whole thing about, you know, dogs being able to hear so much better than us. It's that sort of thing. How did the animals know that to leave the tsunami area? People didn't, but the animals did. Why do flocks of birds fly along a river and curve with it? Because of the magnetic resonance. So they're feeling energy fields that are more subtle. But it's static energy and electricity that cuts us off from being able to feel those subtle things. I went into the Amazon jungle and stayed at a camp there, and there was no electricity for at least 100 miles in a radius. And I just wanted to stay. I felt my auric field was 30 feet wide. I could feel it being calmed by the palm trees way up high. And and when I came back, I could hear it ringing and hissing. And, you know, when you walk even you go on a horse or camel straight south from the Great Pyramid, you know, you have to cross these huge power lines and they just pound on top of your head. And so all of these synthetic, static, mixed up chemicals and stuff like that robs us of it. So the Egyptians they had 12-strand DNA. And we've been dumbed down, but now we can rebuild from 3 to 6 to 9 to 12, 2 to 3 to 6 to 9 to 12. And so as we, you know, fortify and reinvent ourselves and put ourselves into, you know, take away the toxins, take away the static interference, the interference patterns, understand our energy field, and even the shamanic work that's being done where people realize they're under psychic attack and they have protections for themselves. Once all those kinds of things that interfere with our perceptions are gone, then we can start to rebuild, and it is possible to manifest and to bilocate, and all chemical processes are real, and there are people who study these things. And so even when we look at Heroes, the TV series, you know, each person has one ability. But actually, each of us, as high-level initiates, were trained to have all the abilities, and levitation was one of them. And so you see the yogis and the mystics, and they can eat glass and sleep on nails and walk on fire and all those things. Like, that's because they have mind over matter. They understand how to control material reality. And the thing is, though, with manifestation, it has to be done in a proper atmosphere. So what a lot of people do when they hear about manifestation say, well, I want a red car, a new one, a new Ferrari. Put $1 million in my bank account. But that's easy. And so manifestation would happen in an energy field where the lower self would surrender to the higher self, and a group of people would do that in an atmosphere, a holy place, if you will, and then, you know, everybody would get into a vibrational frequency, and then something would arrive from the other side, and it would land in one person's hand. Well, if that person said, that's mine, yippee, I'm leaving, okay, have it, but you can't do this again, because the manifestation is for the good of all. So we're so tied up in me, mine, winning, I've got more stuff, my house is bigger, you know, and that's coming away. You know, we're being stripped of that as well, where we can't win that way. But the thing is that the purpose of a higher level of consciousness is not for the self. It's for all of humanity. And so once we understand that we're instruments of service, we're divine beings having an earth experience, we clear all the, you know, the stuff that we've been talking about away from us, then we can start to have more senses. And, you know, you literally manifest. It's quite remarkable how spirit can send messages, things, opportunities. We need to know how to look for it, but also what we do with it. So is the opportunity something that you get a whole lot of money and then you retire and do nothing, or do you keep working to serve? Because spirit works with us if we're making sense of what we've manifested.
Absolutely. Wow, that is just brilliantly said. I hope everybody heard that. And if you didn't hear it, go back and listen to the archives again and listen to what she just said. Because that's very important information that we don't hear every day.
And too many people, though, even, you know, for the wonder that The Secret was and what it did, it's really teaching people to manifest something for what they desire.
That's right. That's right.
And that's not it. It's I desire to serve. how can I best serve, right? So you may manifest a plane ticket. You may manifest a plane ticket, of which I've done many times, but it's to go somewhere to help.
Exactly. It's not about you.
No, and so I often say, if Spirit wants me to go and do that, then my favorite prayer is, handle it.
Right, yeah, I do that too. And if it doesn't happen, then it's not supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. And then I think that requires a certain level of detachment from materialism, because otherwise, you're worried all the time, and we're in a state of constant stress, and that lowers our immune system, and blah, 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 blah. Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, don't get me started on religion and what a control matrix that is, and, the whole thing about pursuing your relationship. I mean, my God, that's shoved down our throats. You must find your partner, or your lover, or take Viagra so you can have more sex and all that. Well, this is a totally disempowering path that we're on. And since we're coming closer to the end of the show, and I don't want to end on a low note, what do you feel are the most significant findings or information that you'd like to share with us, before we have to sign off?
Well, the Egyptians were into having a really good time, and there's a whole symbolism that goes with blue lotus and papyrus. Blue lotus being a symbol of the sacred feminine, and papyrus being the sacred masculine. But they have all these images of the stem of the blue lotus wrapped around a wine jar. And so there's been experiments done recently of taking blue lotus flowers, which are almost extinct, and putting them in wine, and then drinking the wine, and people having a marvelous time and feeling hypersenses and sensory experiences and feeling really, really good, and their brains streaming with energy, and then when it's over, they just get tired and fall asleep. And so we've got such a thing about, thou shalt not do drugs, even though they're funding, largely what's going on in Afghanistan is to fund the poppies so that people can do that, but then it's illegal. But, the idea that we have to be so restricted, and we can't have this and we can't have that, and we have to minimize this calories and exercise so that we look good. The Egyptians looked good because they felt good.
Right.
And they have very beautiful bodies, and, they understood about giving and sharing and connecting with spirituality. And, if we're not really, it's not religion, but spirituality. If we're not connected to our higher selves, we're miserable. We don't feel like we have purpose. We don't know why we do anything. You think, well, I could do anything now. I'm retired. I could do anything. Well, what do I want to do? I don't know. But because we're not coming from a place of understanding our soul's purpose. And that's what the Egyptians are pointing to. They had connections to higher beings, to extraplanetary systems. I'm not saying that it's the aliens that built the pyramids, but they certainly were able to connect with beings from other planets, and they called them the ancestors. Other planets, other realms, whatever you want to say. And so we've divided all that up. Patriarchy, puts every department in a different building in the university, and we're never going to figure all this out unless linguistics starts to talk to archaeoastronomy, talks to, all of it. So, everything. It has to fit together in a socio-cultural, spiritual context. And I think that the messages that are on the temple walls in Egypt are messages we, as high-level initiates, left for ourselves to wake us up to who they were and who we can be, and who some of us are already. And it's all there. We have the same DNA. We're going home.
Wow, what a beautiful message. That's very inspirational. And of course we know that there are parts of our DNA that are presently blank, but those could be, I don't think there's anything that's junk. I think everything is just waiting for the proper trigger to be switched on. And maybe there is a switch that is similar to a light switch, and the light will come on.
Well, where are those switches? To me, having been to sacred sites all over the planet, having been to Egypt 24 times, the triggers are at the sacred sites where you feel something, you have visions. And standing in the place where they stood, all of a sudden, the sacred geometry of the buildings, the metaphor of the cavities of the body being represented in the halls of the various temples, all of this triggers us whether we know it or not. But when we're joining with the consciousness, when we're following our intuition and going to a sacred site because we feel the impulse to go, too many of us argue with that. And so it is possible to trigger this being, and to stand with somebody else who's already triggered at the sacred site. All of a sudden, it's life-changing.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
then they tell us, oh, don't go there, be afraid. Oh, no, in Egypt it's dangerous. It isn't dangerous. They're just trying to stop us from waking up in every way possible. They're going to radiate us while we go through the airport. People go, oh, no, I'm staying home. You know, get radiated by my refrigerator instead.
It is a travesty. Well, you know, I didn't get to ask you about some of your experiences in your private moments where you were able to explore where the public can't go, and I have another 1,000 questions for you. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to come back sometime and we can expand upon where we started here, this seed that was planted today.
Yeah. It sounds like we've got an awful lot to talk about.
I think we do. I think we do, and it's an important stuff. So would you please tell everybody where you can be found and where they can get your DVD and your book also? I didn't get to ask you about that either. So you have to come back.
Okay, that's fine, Lance. I'd be happy to. It's pyramidcode.com. Pyramidcode, not the series is the .pyramid code. The website has no the. There's a contact us button that has my email if you're interested. There's also information about the Magic Egypt trips. I'll be doing Ascension Portals 10-10-10 in the Great Pyramid, 11-11-11, and 12-12-12. So we'll actually be there for the December 21st solstice outside around the Great Pyramid. And my book can be ordered, and the DVDs can be ordered off my website in PAL version for Europe and Australia and New Zealand. Amazon.com and Amazon.ca both carry the DVD series. So you'll find it all linked up on my website.
Wonderful. Well, Carmen, this has been a very wonderful chat, and I hope that people enjoy this and listen to it several times, and I wish you the best in your journeys and hope that people will follow your work quite diligently.
Good. Well, I hope you send me a link and I can put it on the podcast page of my website because the archive of my radio interviews is there so people can...
I will be happy to do that because this is one that shouldn't be missed. And we didn't get into... Like I said, there are so many things that were coming through my mind, and I think we have enough for another show or two easily.
Okay,
so
well,
I'll be following your work, and I'm gonna continue watching that video because I've seen it twice now, and I keep finding more incredible information in it. So
I've heard of people who've watched it 12 times.
Oh yeah, well I know that I'm going to get up to 12. I'm just kind of savoring each moment. So you're one of the most amazing people on the planet, and I thank you so much, profoundly, for being on the show. And my thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for doing your homework so we could have this conversation because you held your end up too.
Oh, thank you much. All right, Carmen, I will talk again. Thanks a lot, and that's the end of the show, everybody. Bye-bye.